Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. If it goes to get wet, it's because my hair is wet. It's not sweat. So, I wanted to discuss. There's two tweets that technically three, of PearlyThings that I shared on my community tab that I wanted to discuss. One of them was essentially saying that women are arrogant because they see themselves as useful and needed on the same footing as men. Now, what is interesting about this is Pearl is coming out as a male supremacist. And by her degrading females, you could take her argument and then say that men who cosplay as women are better women because they're men, and that men are better at being women because they're men, and men seem to her to be more equal. So by her logic, that would mean that the trans woman is better than a female due to the fact that it is biologically a male. I really want you to think about what I just said, because we notice more and more of the trans people, especially the men who dress up as women, saying that they are better women because they have no capacity to get pregnant. And if you take all the attributes that men have at physical strength, a trans person would have more physical strength than a biological female. And they would have the male brain, but due to plastic surgery, they would look like a woman. And if you notice, the porn industry is starting to you shouldn't really notice. How should I put this in a better way? They're using more androgynous people in their films. And you're starting to notice how the trans people are competing in beauty pageants and female sports. They're being allowed access to our bathrooms, our locker rooms, on our sports teams. They're just everywhere. And so men are increasingly watching videos where men who've gotten plastic surgery to look like women are being put on the same footing as women, and women are having to defend themselves and their value to society because they're being degraded to a very obscene level. And if you watch some of the debates of the trans activists, they don't really see pregnancy and maternity as very valuable. And once they say an artificial womb is created, then the natural vagina, will just become a bonus hole. And so what this does is it really degrades and dehumanizes females. And Pearl's rhetoric actually sounds really sick, because it helps men in the trans rights movement to see themselves as superior because they're men themselves who cosplay as women. And since Pearl is a male supremacist, she would then argue, if she's using the same logic, that trans women are better than actual women, and that the only value actual women have is reproduction. And Pearl herself has said that women are not needed outside of just production, and I've shared those tweets and I'm archiving them on my blog, and I encourage you to archive them, because if you extract all the implications of her philosophy that she's spouting, she is worse than an occultist, I'd argue, because of the way in which she degrades the honor and value of women, because she has very low self-esteem and is the worst form of a pick-me. Okay? And what is really sick is that she's literally saying rhetoric that even the fascistic Aryan Germans of the 1930s wouldn't say. I want you to think about something. If you look at the propaganda of Mean Mr. Mustache, it had mothers and fathers, and that art of that generation really showed the value of women. Okay? The cultures that value women and see them as important to society in every capacity and cherish them is a healthy society, because a healthy mother creates a healthy society. Okay? And so we have different roles, the night and the day. How can you say which is better when you need both? Okay? When you have the highest peak of the mountains, their perspective, versus the deepest parts of the ocean versus your perspective, right? You have salt and sugar. You have all these different elements of the seasons, the cycles. The summer, the spring, the autumn, the winter, the rain. You have the desert. You have the jungle. You have the savanna. You have the grasslands. You have the beaches. You have all the swamps. All of those different ecosystems sustain different forms of life and have value. And if we are to sit here and pretend like women don't have the same type of usefulness on Earth, and that only men are really useful, then that would put the trans woman above the biological woman, because they are in fact genetically men. And so her rhetoric harms women as a whole, and she is not to be put upon a pedestal as a mother figure for these nihilistic, cynical, MGTOW, red pill incels. They are whispering in her ear things that are making her farther and farther away from sanity, from female spirituality, and she is going so far astray that it's going to be surprising if any man would take her as a wife, because her rhetoric shows she will be an abusive, unfit mother. Because if she talks to strangers this way, how is she going to talk to her own daughters? A mother's job, one of them that is to build up, healthy, sane, spiritual, fortified, God-fearing women, okay, who are able to endure massive amounts of discomfort. You have to endure quite much when you're a woman. Pregnancy and everything, childbirth, recovering, staying up at night with the baby, sleep deprivation, managing the household. So much is placed upon women as well as men. We have our different roles, and they're both beautiful. The stripes of the zebra both add to the dimension of its coat. And so when Pearl says such ugly things, that women are arrogant because they would contend that they are needed and useful just like men, this isn't quite evil. This is really quite evil. I want you to think of this as like a very demonic spirit. Imagine you were praying and this demonic spirit is like, you're not useful. You are not needed. You should die. You are not needed. You have no value. Like these type of whispers of shaitan that people who are suicidal deal with, people who have extreme amounts of trauma and are trying to find some way out of the black hole of their existence, out of the pit and void of depression and despair. You have to show them a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is hope, redemption, atonement, hope in the hereafter. You have to give them strength by the permission of Allah the best way you can to motivate them to keep doing and excelling the best way they can. Does Pearl's message about women not even being on the same footing in terms of value to the human race, does that sound something like spiritual, loving? Does that sound really like a woman you'd want to trust to raise your children, to be around your young, vulnerable men? I want you to think about how brutal she is to women, but how giggly she gets around Adam, whose wife just did a porno with another porn star. People are trolling him online from the No Jumper podcast. She's interviewed with him. She's super giddy. She's loving it. She likes that sexual playboy energy. She fanboys over Tate, who owned a cam business. And just because he's Muslim doesn't mean I'm not going to bring him up. He still has things he has to change. But she doesn't spark me as a woman who sees redemption in women or any value in women at all. Further than that, John Zerha she interviewed him, which I've mentioned before. He brags about sleeping with over 1,000 women. She was super giggly, likes him. Really insane, in my opinion. She adores Nick Fuentes, who he's a virgin. He wants to marry 16-year-olds. A lot of people call him bisexual because of the Catboy incident. He's really smart on some politics stuff, but he himself doesn't have the best views when it comes to about women. And Owen Benjamin has mentioned, how Nick views women is often how a gay man views women, and it's not how a heterosexual man views women. And he's described women as icky and just it's not very how a heterosexual man would communicate. But I digress. I don't want to get the frog people trolling me for months on end because I mentioned their icon. But I'm just trying to paint to you the picture of the type of men that Pearl praises, and then contrasting that to how she speaks about women. So she doesn't call these playboys arrogant. No, she doesn't, because she wants to use them to gain more of a platform. But she will call Christian women terrible things. Now, she doesn't mention Muslim women, right? And she learned her lesson with attacking the religious community of the Muslims when she mentioned the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his marriage to Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. And when Muhammad Hijab put his energy in her direction, she didn't want that heat. But she knows the Christians are a bit more passive, so now she's taken a fancy to dividing the Christian homes. And I want you to sit back and examine how she's dividing men and women against each other. And it's very sinful for a woman to divide another woman from her husband. She is spending way too much time around men who don't have marriage experience, and then she's also talking to a lot of very angry, bitter divorced men. I do find it interesting that red pill Muslim men will say that they don't want their wives talking to angry, divorced women, but then they are quite silent about angry, bitter men spewing nonsense to disillusioned, nihilistic men when it comes to marriage. And Pearl is an agent of that, in a way of the sort of despair philosophy, doomer philosophy. It is not arrogant for women to see themselves as useful to this world. It is not arrogant for women to feel that they are needed, to minimize the role of women, while she herself feels the need to be the champion of the male philosophy of red pill, is quite ironic and hypocritical. She says essentially also that men are not to get wisdom from women, yet she herself is telling men what to do in their relationships, which is another form of hypocrisy and irony. So Pearl is in and of itself a person who doesn't actually follow what she preaches. She's college educated, she came from a rich family, and she is lecturing poor women who suffer greatly to be mothers, to be wives, and who do with so little. She's putting them down as shitty mothers and wives in her other tweets, as I have showed on my community tab. And so Pearl herself has admitted she can't cook. She's learning, but she's just not there. And she wears belly shirts, booty shorts, spaghetti strap dresses, very low and revealing shirts. She doesn't even have the classiness to dress like a traditional conservative woman. She herself admits she flip-flops with Catholicism, and she preaches things that go against biblical law. And so it's very important for young men to not listen to Pearl, and she is telling you things that are part of the MGTOW WhatsApp circles, and she's not a woman you would actually want to have. Someone who hates themselves to the degree she does, and who hates the gender she was born to, is just quite crazy. She has allowed feminists to push her into a corner, and she has taken solace in men who have let go of their respect for women in general. And so now that she's, I think someone pointed out, she's 27 now. So she's 27 and has still not been picked, even though she has put herself up as an icon for men's rights. Okay. And I just feel that you need to be careful when you listen to a woman who degrades the daughters of Adam in such a way. And so I would argue that women are not arrogant for feeling they're needed in society. The night is not better than the day, and the day not better than the night. The winter is needed, the summer is needed, fall is needed, spring is needed. It is the way in which Allah has created this realm, and He has created it in His wisdom. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created women. Men excel in certain areas and women in other certain areas. You will not be judged on Judgment Day as a man and be able to just get away with anything because you're a man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges our deeds, our actions, and plenty of women will get into paradise and plenty of men will not. And nowhere in the Quran does it say that women are inferior, that we are lesser, that we are to be despised. It tells men to take care of us. You don't take care of something that is not valuable. We are to be guarded and protected and sustained. And men have more endurance and energy to do that. And they are able to endure different kinds of pain, just like women are able to endure different kinds of pain and suffering. Women endure suffering, and so do men. And we each have our struggle and trials in life. And so it's wrong for Pearl to try to put women under the foot of men in a way that is worse than something an occultist would do. I don't agree with female supremacy or male supremacy. I do not believe that Islam says that women are just these disgusting, reviled creatures, that they need to be mocked. Because isn't there a hadith as well that says paradise for men is through the feet of their mother? I'm summarizing it. But think about that. The way in which you treat your mother and the women around you is extremely important. Okay? Which shows that women do have value. We do have value. Men have value. And we don't need to fight each other in this way. Pearl offers no solutions except shaming women and radicalizing young men, which makes them want to harm women, shame women, abuse women. And she's not convincing a feminist to be a better wife. Rather, she is radicalizing young, disenfranchised men to have hatred in their heart for women. And so you must be mindful of her agenda and remind yourself that she's being heavily paid with monetization, the thanks button, the join button, all that jazz. She's being directly funded with these ideas, and so she's not going to mess up that bank account. So she is essentially a grifter who will throw women under the bus just so she can make a quick buck. So think about what she pushes and cleanse yourself of her philosophy entirely.